Hey y'all, and welcome to today's video. I'm going to be showing you my entire collection of my eyeshadow palettes. I know this video is going to be a long one. I'm very excited about it though. I want to share my collection with y'all. Now, I did pre-film this just a little bit, so if I get some palettes between the time I film this and the time I post this in those few days, of course they won't be able to be in this video, but I want to show you everything I have. I'm excited about it. It's a lot of fun. We're going to be going through my collection, and I cannot link to everything because I have so many palettes, but I will try my best to put some links in the description box. If you have any questions, definitely let me know. I would love to hear y'all's comments. Let me know what palettes you have in your collection. I'm just excited. I love showing y'all my collection. Every year we do this video for Vlogmas, so it's gonna be a good fun time. Listen, I know it's going to be long though, so let me stop talking. Let me introduce myself. My name is Heather, and makeup makes me happy. Here at my channel, we don't try to be perfect. We just want to have a good time with our makeup, whatever that means. I do upload lots of new videos every single week. I'm currently uploading every single day, so I hope that you will subscribe so you don't miss out on any of my future content. But like I said, we have so many palettes to talk about, so let's jump into it. All right, jumping in to my collection, let's start with these ABH palettes. These are their kind of older format of palettes, but I love these. I have to say my favorite ABH palette has got to be their collaboration with Jackie Aina. I think they just did such a good job with this one. Look at how beautiful. The color story that Jackie did is, I don't need to go on and on about it. I just need to show you my collection. It's so good. I would say Amrezy is probably my second favorite. I love the neutrals with the pop of color. I love all the different textures and formulas in here. The hot pink, so fun. The Carly Bible palette. Oh, I just love seeing creators collab with their favorite brands. So opening this one up, beautiful, very light tones, but really, really pretty. We have the original Subculture. Now, I was kind of in the minority and really liked this one when it first launched. I always had a super good experience with this one. We also, we've got so many ABH palettes. I love this one, their Prism palette. I would actually really like to see ABH come back with a fun color story like this. We had the neon and the jewel tones. I think it was super fun. Okay, next we have Sultry. I feel like this was everyone's favorite. Very cool toned, lots of glam, shimmer, sparkle shades. Of course, Modern Renaissance. This is a cult favorite for a reason. The warm berries, the orange tones, I love this one too. Makeup by Mario. Oh, I remember people were freaking out over this palette, and for good reason. Whoops, for good reason. It's so pretty. And I mean, now, is this color story anything super unique? No, but the quality was so great. This is the original Norvina palette before the Norvina line, and I really liked this one too. I think it was super pretty. And then of course we have Soft Glam. This one I think was a lot of people's favorites, even more so than Modern Renaissance, because you didn't have those pops of berry and oranges, but still very, very pretty. But I will say I do enjoy Anastasia's newer eyeshadow formula. I think it's just a little more elevated now. I only ever bought one of the large Norvina palettes, and this is like the sub-brand of ABH, but the quality of this palette is really nice. Very pigmented. The shadows weren't quite as soft as the traditional ABH palettes, and I feel like real makeup lovers really liked this formula, at least from what I saw online, and I really enjoyed it too. I think the quality in these palettes are really, really nice. Okay, I have some of my BH palettes here. Who remembers the original Carly Bible BH palette? Mine you can see how much I loved this, and I feel like so many people either loved this palette or hated this palette, and I was one that really loved it. I think maybe it was over 5 years ago, I spent a couple of weeks in Zambia with my family on vacation, and this is the palette I took with me and used over and over and over again. I have such good memories with that palette. And then here we have my birthstone palettes. I just pulled these. They're definitely not in month order, but I have Sapphire. I do have a video with these. I had fun last year doing one video every month with these palettes. Sapphire is probably my favorite. Love that one. Then we had Amethyst. Such a pretty color story. We've got Ruby. This one was one of my least favorite ones. I don't know. I just didn't love the pinky tones that BH chose. We've got Opal, which was a pastel palette. Aquamarine, which of course has aquamarine shades. We've got Pearl. I loved this one for a neutral palette. I think this was so beautiful. Garnet. This was another one that I didn't absolutely love. I didn't think the quality in here was as good as the quality in some of the other ones, but it was still good. We've got Diamond. Again, another really, really great neutral palette in my opinion with the silver tones in there. Citrine was another one of my favorites. The shades in here are so pigmented and beautiful. I love the yellows and the browns together. We've got Turquoise. This one was really good too. Of course, it's a lighter color story. Peridot. This one was really, really, really good. I would love to know if y'all bought these birthstone palettes, which one is your personal favorite? Emerald was another one that I really enjoyed. I loved the olive tones, the greens. It's just, I think overall like a really special palette. Okay, here I really have a mix of palettes. So this is the Kaylee Urban Bible palette done in collaboration with Sosu. So she now has her own brand. But this palette I really enjoyed. I thought the color story was super beautiful, the mix of mattes and metallics, but I know you can't get that one anymore. This is the only Scott Barnes palette I've ever tried. This is the Color Bomb palette. Lots of bright, fun colors. Lots of really light tones as well, but I think that one is a fun palette. The Bperfect Clientele palette. This was, I think, the second palette I ever tried from Bperfect, and it just solidified my love for the brand. I really like that we have so many neutrals in this palette. I mean, of course, it's a neutral palette, but there's more than just one or two pops of colors. You know, we have two greens. We have some pinky berry leaning shades, orange. We have warm tones, cool tones. I just think this is a really fun, colorful neutral palette, you know. And then I've got Kylie's Diary. Oh my gosh, I used this thing so much and you can barely even tell. I will say this palette, they imprinted the hearts on the blushes so well, because I'm telling y'all, I use this palette a lot and it still looks like really, really good. I thought this was such a cute Valentine's Day collection to do like a diary theme. I've got a couple of KKW Beauty palettes. The only ones I have are the ones she did in collaboration with Mario, her makeup artist. And I mean, Mario has his own line now, but I know KKW, the brand, is no longer available, but I have such great memories with these palettes. I actually went on vacation to Myanmar, and we were gone for a couple of weeks, and I took both of these palettes with me, and they were so great, and I was able to do neutral and color with these, so I really enjoy those. Who remembers the Colored Rain Queen of Hearts palette? Oh my gosh, this is still the only palette I've ever tried from the brand. This type of background, I hate how hard it is to capture on camera, but it really is pretty in person. I loved these warm orangey tones and the purples together. I have the Lethal is Dead palette, the first collaboration that Teresa did with Lethal Cosmetics. I have the second palette too, but we'll get there. We'll get to the bin of my more recent palettes here in just a minute. But yeah, this was the first collaboration that they did. Really, really beautiful palette. I was super excited for Teresa when I saw that. Here we've got the BK Beauty True Beauty palette. I was kind of wondering if we would see more color products from BK Beauty this year, but maybe next year we'll see some more things. I definitely think this palette fits the brand. Very light, very neutral, with a couple of pops of purple, which are really, really nice. I thought the quality of this palette was really good. I have this palette that was given to me by a friend. This is the Bejeweled Eyes to Hypnotize palette from Charlotte Tilbury, and this is the only palette I have from the brand, and I think this is really, really nice. Of course, it's very neutral, and the times I've played with it, I've definitely reached for that red and that purple shade, and I've had a good experience with the quality. I think it feels very luxurious to me, and I really, really enjoy that. I've got, what is this? The Pastel Dreams palette from Give Me Glow. This is the only palette I have from Give Me Glow, although I do have some of their singles. Well, I thought I could open it. There we go. Very, very pastel. You have a pastel matte and a pastel metallic in each of the shades, which is nice. And it's a large palette. Like, look at it compared to my Dose of Colors Friendcation palette. Man, I love this palette. I think the concept was so fun, like working with your best friend to create a palette. I think that is so, so fun, and Desi and Katie really did a great job on this one. And then I have some Juvia's Place quads. We've got the Honey quad, very pretty yellowy brown shades. We have the Mints, pretty light colors. We have the Army, beautiful greens, really pretty. I have this one with Melissa and this one with Fumi. These are probably my favorite Juvia's Place palettes ever. The quality in these is just outstanding. Like, these are these right here are some of the best blues I've ever used, and these like just blend effortlessly. So gorgeous. Okay, I have a bunch of different palettes here. Let's see. We've got Jungle Lights from Flower Beauty along with their Desert Lights. Absolutely beautiful palettes. I want to say these are like $16, something like that, but the quality in here is just really, really good. I've got a few more Juvia's Place palettes. We have the pinks, really bright pink shades, really great quality. The chocolates, absolutely gorgeous chocolatey shades. The mauves, I love that they didn't try to go crazy with the naming of this palette. You know, the name is what you're going to get. The berries, the chocolates, the mauves, the pinks. It is what's inside these palettes, and I think that is perfect. Really love those. I have this It's Belle Cool Summer palette. I have some more It's Belle palettes as well. We'll get to those. I kind of have those in a separate place, but this, I really liked the shimmers in here. I didn't love the matte formula, so I hope that, you know, It's Belle will continue to make palettes that have mattes and shimmers in them, but I would love to see a different matte formula from them that maybe I enjoy a bit more. I've got, let's see, this one from Florasis. Look, if you haven't seen Florasis makeup, like Isn't that gorgeous? Like, it is so beautiful. You can definitely tell, whoops, that I've used this shade the most. I just think that one is so incredibly beautiful, but all their makeup is just so insanely gorgeous. I have the Stoned Vibes palette. I really liked this one from Urban Decay. The packaging is bulky, but it's fun. And I really loved to see Urban Decay doing something different. The inside of this palette, we had these really fun shimmer shades, just something a bit different from the brand with 4 mattes. You know, I would love to see Urban Decay take more risks like they did with this palette. We have the Naked 3. This I keep around for nostalgia. Sorry, a little hard to open now. There we go. So Naked 3 was the pinks and mauves. I have the original Naked palette. I'm pretty sure they discontinued this one. Don't make it anymore. I have Naked Heat right here. I love warm tones. I really, really do. And this palette, yeah, I was loving on this one a lot. This one is from the brand ZZ, and it's part of their like Alice in Wonderland collaboration. I thought this palette quality was okay, not amazing, but I think more so you're buying it for the packaging. I mean, the shadows are okay, don't get me wrong. I could create a look with them that was pretty, just not my favorite. Took a little more work. I've got these singles from Davina. I forget what the name of this collection was, but they're definitely like shifty, iridescent type shades. Yeah, I want to say I did an eye swatch video with these, but they're really, really beautiful singles. I need to, it's hard to even show on camera what all they do. Like, they just look so white in the pan until you angle them, but I need to actually set these out so I can use these more and get more use out of these. So I'm actually going to set these to the side to where I'll remember to use those more. My Sigma Spicy palette. I like their little 9 pans. I love Sigma. Y'all already know that though. I have my Gourmand Girls Ethereal palette. This is one of their all shimmer, sparkle, shifty palettes. Really pretty collection of shades. I think there's some really nice ones in here, and you get a nice mirror in this palette. If I have codes for any of these brands, obviously I can't link to everything in the description box, but I will try to do my best and fit as much as I can. This is the Geology Cosmetics Pilbara palette. This is the only palette that is launched from the brand, I think. I don't think I've seen another palette from them because I've definitely been keeping my eye on the brand. This is a really pretty palette. I like the shape of the palette too. I think that's pretty fun. And then I have a few Game Beauty palettes. So this is the Victory palette. Really pretty, neutrally palette with this really pretty like sparkly shimmer shade. We've got the Adventure palette, which is their more green toned palette. Very pretty with some pops of color. I have this, the Fantasy palette, which is Game Beauty's kind of pastel-y palette. And then the Harbinger palette. This was the first palette I purchased from Game Beauty, and I really, really liked it. I mean, the gaming theme is pretty cool. I think I'm not a gamer like that. I mean, I play Candy Crush, but I don't think that counts. But this palette I bought from Game Beauty, and I was like, oh wow, okay, I see the hype that people have for this brand, and I think this is still my favorite palette from them. I think the color story is pretty cool. More palettes. Let me scoot this over. This is the Tarte palette that they did for True Blood. Oh my gosh. This one is so old, but I'll never part with it because it's so nostalgic. There used to be products down here. I completely used them all up. Fun fact, I actually got to meet Charlene Harris, the author of the Sookie Stackhouse series, and I have a book signed by her. It was so fun. This was their True Blood palette. This color story at the time, I just loved it. You can see how much I dipped into the pans on this palette. Man, this was fun. This was really fun for Tarte. All right, Juvia's Place Wahala 2. I loved this one. So colorful, fun. We've got a multi-chrome in here. Juvia's Place did a really, really good job with this palette. I have Rebel Rouge Labs Prelude to Agony palette. Whoops. This was kind of a dark, weird, grungy color story, but I enjoyed it. I have the original Wahala from Juvia's Place. This one kept selling out. I remember it was pretty hard for me. Like, I was stalking the site to get this one, and this is a really good palette from Juvia's Place. Really, really beautiful. All right, Morphe Jaclyn Hill. This one is Armed and Gorgeous. I have this one right here, Ring the Alarm. Beautiful. I have Profusion the Violets. We've got Profusion Emeralds. Pretty Green Neutrals. Okay, so we have our eyeshadows over here. We have our face shades with that one. And then I've also got the Once palette that Emily did with Makeup Revolution. And we've got beautiful, beautiful colors here. Lots of options here, but overall fairly neutral. So yeah, I really liked this palette. I mean, I love Emily Noel's videos, so of course I'm going to love her palette. I think it was very, very true to her. This is the, let me move my phone out of the way. I've got the Desert Monsoon palette from What's Up Beauty here. This one, really, really good. This was the first palette I ever had from the brand, and I'm pretty sure it's the first palette they ever released. All right, next I've got these palettes. This is the Too Faced Cinnamon Swirl palette. I bought this last year after not having tried Too Faced for a very long time, and I was pleasantly surprised. It's good. Not my favorite, but definitely good. Which one is this one? Bling Boss from Morphe Jaclyn Hill. Then I've got this one, which was Dark Magic. This was one of my favorites. This is the Gourmand Girls That Time of Year palette. Lots of sparkly shades, a very mid-tone but pretty palette. This is the Morphe 35E. I don't know why I keep this palette. I really don't. It's all shimmer shades, but for some reason, I just don't want to get rid of it. This color story is so yummy. I think this is called the Big Mood from Morphe, but I love green and purple together, first of all. And I feel like the color story of this palette is just so good. I would love to see Morphe like re-release this with maybe like an updated formula for now, because we have neutrals, we have color. It's really a really, really pretty palette. This palette I loved and still do. I know the formula is not the same as the ones that they make now, that they made in this original, because this was when this palette was first released. I got the palette then, so I know the formula now is not the same. But this palette was so many people's favorite for a reason. Like, the formula was so amazing in here. Just very easy to blend, very easy to work with. Now, that little corner of color with the blue, purple, and the kind of teal shades, the formula in that was not amazing, but everything else, like, this was just like the best neutral palette. e.l.f. Electric Mood. I think this is my only e.l.f. palette in this size, and I think the quality in this was good. We even had like some duochrome formulas. Not my favorite, not the most amazing, but I think this was a really nice palette, especially if you're shopping in store and you want to get a nice drugstore palette. I liked this one. This palette was 100% a favorite. Oh my gosh. I loved this one. It smelled like peaches. It still does. You can see, like, I used the dark shades the most. Like, you can definitely see the imprint on the pans on those, that I kind of gravitate to the dark shades. But yeah, this this was like a moment in makeup history. This palette kept selling out. Okay, I've got a couple of palettes here from Kaleidos. Okay, so we have a rainbow palette, great formula in here, really beautiful. But this Rococo palette, I really enjoyed this color story. The old name of the brand was Musée Beauty, and then they rebranded to Kaleidos, so that's why you see the name on the Rococo palette a little bit different. But the quality of both of these palettes is really good. Okay, this is the Jungle Book palette from Beauty Bay. Really awesome. I really love these Disney palettes. I also have Bambi right down here. This palette is so light, the camera doesn't want to focus on it. I see this as a really good companion palette. Really nice light shades. We have the Mad Hatter. I'm telling y'all, Beauty Bay makes a great formula. So the Mad Hatter here with these really bright shades, love. I've got my Dumbo palette. This is the color story that kind of spoke to me the least, I would say, but I think it's really true to the movie. And again, these from Beauty Bay, these 6 pans, they're so inexpensive and the quality is so great. So if you're looking for maybe like some little companion palettes, or you want to add some mattes to, maybe you have some beautiful shimmers, duochromes, something like that, I cannot recommend these from Beauty Bay enough. And if you love Disney, like, extra wonderful, right? I love these two from BH. Really amazing quality in these palettes. I have Do Not Disturb and Looking Like a Snack. Malibu Barbie palette from Colourpop. Now this is a great quality palette. This palette, I feel like Colourpop really stepped up the formula. I really like this one. Love the packaging too. Kathleen Lights and the Zodiac palette. A super duper beautiful palette. And then her second collab, which was Dream Street from Colourpop. This one I feel like was a Colourpop palette that people were losing their minds over. Such a pretty color story, such a pretty formula. I mean, this color story we've seen done over and over again, but at the time, this was such a fun, on-trend color story. Such an inexpensive price point, really high quality shadows. Okay, I've got another couple of Colourpop collab palettes. This is the Perception palette that they did in collaboration with focus camera. This was done in collaboration with Makeup Shayla. I think you can tell how much I used and enjoyed this palette. I've got the Through My Eyes palette right here. This was done in collaboration with Karen, or I Love Sarah E is her name on Instagram, I believe, and also here on YouTube. This is one of my favorite Colourpop palettes, honestly. I really like the color story. I love the teals and the purples and the oranges and yellows, and there's just enough neutral, like mauve-y tones in there that you can create a very easy, more neutral leaning look if that's what you want. Now we've moved into the Disney Designer from Colourpop. This is a very neutral color story, but really pretty. I mean, this is just a pretty palette. You've got your light shades, your shimmer shades, your deepening up shades. I have the Midnight Masquerade palette. Now this one went a little more colorful. We've got the yellow, the blue, but still pretty neutral pinky leaning. Now, Misunderstood is one of my personal favorite Colourpop palettes as well. This was the palette that was kind of inspired by the villains, and I'm trying, it may be hard to get some of these holographic backgrounds to focus, but you can probably see why this was a personal favorite of mine. It had so many shimmer shades, purple shimmer, teal shimmer, dark shimmers, light shimmers, and just a few mattes, but the mattes they chose were really smart. A white matte, a black matte, 2 neutrals, and a blue. I love it. I've said it probably a million times, but this Mulan palette from Colourpop is the best neutral palette they've ever done. This was one of the first times Colourpop really started putting their Super Shock shadows in their pressed powder palettes. And I just think that was such a smart move for them. This one you have reds, you have more cool leaning neutrals, and then you also have some warmer neutrals. Okay, this is the Sigma palette done in collaboration with Stephanie Lang. She created the Essentials palette. I don't know why I don't have that with my Sigma palettes, but I should probably reorganize after this. Okay, now I've got a bunch of indie brand palettes. So Glaminatrix U Beauty, this is the first palette I ever bought from the brand. And I was like, wow, okay, multi-chromes, mattes, beautiful, fun color story. You can tell I've used mine quite a bit. I really, really like this formula. Then I have the Nabla Side by Side palette. So we've got a really, really pretty neutral palette here. Cool tones, warm tones, different textures and finishes, goes light to dark, everything I love in a neutral palette. And then this, I love, this is the Ofra Samantha March collaboration. Samantha March is a good friend of mine, absolutely love her. And I think she did a palette that is so her and so beautiful. I really, really enjoy this. I also really liked, I don't know if they still do this, but you got Samantha's palette and then it came with these stickers. So I put the stickers all over my palette and I just think that was a really, really fun personal touch to the palette. This is Bailey Sarian and Estate Cosmetics. This is when she did like a collaboration with an Ipsy brand, I believe, but Estate also has their own website. So she made this palette and of course I had to buy it. Absolutely love Bailey Sarian. I would love to see more makeup collabs from her. Because I really liked this one. I thought it was really, really nice. I even used a couple of the shades as like face shades. Here we have Lois Cosmetics Meet Me in the Underworld. This palette, oh my gosh, I loved this palette. I still love this palette. I think this one is amazing. I have their other palette. We'll get to it in just a bit. I don't love the newer one like I love this one though. This one, I mean, I love a story, a myth, a legend, a tale, always. So the theming of this one definitely pulled me in too. And here we have some It's Belle. This is their Dawn of Fall palette. I really enjoyed this one. I really, really like the quality of this palette. I think it's so beautiful. Break the Rules was their first palette, I believe. And this is what really made me like fall for the brand. I purchased all three of these It's Belle palettes myself. I do have an affiliate code with the brand that I can put in the description box. I also have the Flare collection. I want to say this was their second palette. I enjoyed it a lot too. And then this is the only palette that I have from Glam Shop, which is, if I remember correctly, a Polish indie brand. And I actually got to go to Poland earlier this year. Really, really beautiful, beautiful country. I would love to go again, but I really enjoyed the formula of this palette too. Next, I have a few Glamlight palettes to share with you. This is the Icy palette. They launched this, I want to say, in December of last year, and I really, really loved this one. Also, the Cherry. I mean, who doesn't love an Icy, a monochromatic palette? So fun. But this collection, this like cocktail collection they did, one of my favorites. Here, let me turn it so that you can see the color story a little bit better. But if you're looking for colorful tropical shadows, this color story I just think was so bright, fun, vibrant, really, really beautiful formulas. The Wine palette, of course, purple palette, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. And I really like that we had some very light shades and some deep shades in this one. This may be, no, it's definitely in my top favorite neutral palettes of all time. It's so amazing. The Chocolate Martini palette. I will say, I talk about how much I love this palette quite often, and I always have people wanting me to compare this palette to other things, and I just can't. Like, I have not found another palette that I think has this color story, and every time somebody suggests, oh, is this a dupe for this or this, I just don't think so. The tones in here and the shades are very special. I absolutely love this palette. I mean, I think you can tell in the pan how much I've used and love these. Next up, I have Dirty Martini. So again, really shifty, shiny, special shades, beautiful green, and I love that they included these kind of blue-green shades too. I think it makes the palette super special. Juvia's Place palettes, the Saharan. I like this. I think this is a really pretty palette with a beautiful color story. I have the Tribe palette. This one, I think they discontinued, and I gotta say, that was not a good decision in terms of what I like. I know brands discontinue things for a reason, but man, I love that color story. We've got the Magic Mini. This is a really good palette, and I love it in these smaller pans. You get color, you get, well, I was going to say you get neutral, but you did kind of have like 3-ish neutral shades, right? Okay, here is the 669 palette from Martine Cosmetics. Really enjoy this one. And then I have a couple of Kaleidos palettes. This is the Cyber Bronze palette. Let me see if I can actually get it open. There we go. I'm like, it's just magnets, not a hard to open palette. This one, super duper beautiful. Really liked this color story. I know, well, I was going to say, I know they discontinued it, but maybe I'm not too sure about this one. Now, the Flower Punk palette is beyond amazing, like beyond, and they really made a good color story with this one. Let's see, there we go. I'm like, come on now, focus on this beautiful color story. I have this Nudie Patootie from Larly Los Angeles, neutral. I really like this palette. The formula is super duper nice. I definitely wish it had more deep dark shades, like for it to be my personal favorite, but I do think it's really pretty. Okay, Sigma, we have Bare Bliss, very pretty neutral mauve toned color story. We have Untamed. This was one of their more colorful palettes, but it's kind of like a grungy, deep toned palette. Really nice. I'm not sure if they discontinued that one, but then I also have Cor de Rosa. So, whoops, here we have these beautiful tones. Now I also have the mini Cor de Rosa. It was in my friend Karen Harris. She did a like favorites set with Sigma, and she included the mini Cor de Rosa, so I do have that one as well. But yeah, I bought the big one because I couldn't resist. I also bought these two from Sigma because I love them so much. This, I want to say the Enchanted palette was my first time buying a Sigma palette, and I've been hooked ever since. Look at this color story. It's so sparkly and romantic, and I love it. I bought the entire Cinderella Sigma collection. I had to have it because I love Cinderella, and I just feel like Sigma does Disney in a way that other brands don't. Like, they make Disney for people like me. I want Disney, but I want luxe, high quality, adult Disney, you know? BH Cosmetics Sweet Shop palettes. We'll go through these quickly, but these were amazing. If you ever see these, I know they're discontinued now, but if you ever see them at TJ Maxx, Marshalls, something like that, I have to tell you, the quality of these is over the top amazing. So we have the red one here with cherry on top. I've got pistachio, which was the green palette. We've got Orange Sorbet, which was their orange palette, of course. We have the Cotton Candy palette, which was a more purple pink color story. We've got the Sugar Cone palette, which was the neutrals, gorgeous. And then Bubblegum, which is the blue palette. Now, if you stack these all together, like, yes, they do make a cone. I don't know if I have the patience to do that right now, but see how they like stack? Isn't that so cool? Okay, Pat McGrath. This is, oh gosh, this was Divine Rose 2, I think, in her pink packaging that was out. I don't know if they still make it in the pink packaging, but I love the pink packaging. I wish she would continue on with that kind of special type of colors. This one is, I'm not sure. It just says Mothership. But it's this one with the deeper colors. Really like these jewel tones. Really like Pat McGrath, honestly. Oh, here's my Club Nebula with Angelica Nyqvist and Kaleidos. Of course, love this one. You can definitely see how much I've used it. And then I try not to use it so much anymore because I don't want it to be gone because it's not available anymore. But yeah, of course my besties make the best makeup. I have a few Cleona singles, quite a few actually, and these are some of my Cleona matte shades I put in this little palette. And then these from Cleona, my stained glass shadows and some of their shimmer shades. I do have videos with all of these Cleona shadows if you want to see swatches and things like that. More Pat McGrath. Let's see. This one, Utopian Dream. Did this launch this year or last year? I can't remember, but either way, I love it. This was the holiday palette from last year, one of her big ones that I really enjoy this one as well. I love buying the Pat McGrath holiday palettes. This one here, oh yeah. This is one of my favorite color stories with the green and the purple and the gunmetal shades. I love that. And then this was the first holiday palette she did like this. And I love it. What can I say? I love it. Okay, here we have a few different palettes. This is the Alice Through the Looking Glass from Urban Decay that had this fun, like, pull out butterfly to it. I used to love Urban Decay. Used to be fun, and now they're kind of boring, honestly. But inside we have this drawer. I'm sure there's somebody in the comments gonna tell me Urban Decay's not boring, they just and that's fine, have your opinion, but mine is that they've become a bit boring. I'd love to see them become a little more fun again. And think Game of Thrones. I love this palette so much, you will never understand. It's so good. It is so incredibly amazing. Got an Iron Throne, but the shadow quality inside was so good to me. Now, I know most people want a lot of matte shades, but the quality of these shimmer shades is so incredible. Like, this one honestly competes with some indie brands, and I loved the color story. Overall, everything about this palette I loved. This, in my opinion, is the best palette that NYX has ever done. This is the Netflix Sabrina palette. It's so big, though. The camera doesn't even want to focus. It's like, this is too big. The quality of this palette is so good, and I keep trying to find this shimmer formula in other NYX palettes, and I cannot. The blushes, beautiful. That blush topper highlighter shade, beautiful. This right here is like a sparkly iridescent shade that, like, if an indie brand put their name on this and said this single is $15 itself, I'd be like, yep, sure, makes sense. Same with these two. Like, beautiful color story, beautiful quality. Beetlejuice and Melt. I know a lot of people want these palettes to come back. I would assume they're not coming back because Melt probably only had the licensing for Beetlejuice for a short time period. You know, I'm sure it wasn't like forever and indefinitely, but these are two of the best palettes Melt ever made, in my opinion. The color story is beautiful, the quality beautiful. Everything about these I love. Here we have the Mini Corta Rosa. I actually just bought this one because my friend Karen picked it out for her favorite set. I love seeing my besties succeed, y'all. This is Melt Muerte. I bought this one when they restocked it. I've got Lawless the One. At the time that I'm filming this, I'm still in the process of reviewing this one. So yeah, there's that one. And then Fall Magic from Unearthly. This one is so good, and I waited and slept on this one for far too long. Like, I know y'all told me this was your favorite Unearthly palette, but I still accept none of the responsibility. Somebody seriously should have slapped me and said, what are you doing? Why haven't you bought this one? So I finally bought it, y'all. I finally bought it, y'all. And I get it. I've been missing out. This one is beyond amazing. Okay, Nomad palettes, Monteverde Cloud Forest. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful green, colorful color story. Look at those beautiful shades. We have the Nomad palette based in France. Beautiful, kind of like washed out tones here. This one here is based on Santa's Village. Beautiful. We have Haunted Europe. This one had a really cool cover that like changed and then based on like a dark fairy tales. Love that. We have the Hudson Valley palette. This is such a fall color story with the greens and reds and oranges. I have their Tokyo inspired palette. This is their pastel palette. Really, really nice formulas in here. Then we have Paradise Islands. This cover like makes me so happy. I think it's so fun. And we have this really pretty tropical kind of color story on the inside. I've got my Whistler Snow Lodge. This one really beautiful as well. This was the first palette they launched this year, I believe. This has a very dark mid-tone with some light shades in there. And then we've got the Iceland palette. I want to go to Iceland so much, y'all. Like, I really would love to go there, even though I hate the cold. Look at this color story, the imprints on the pan. This is the first palette I ever bought from Nomad, and it made me fall in love with the brand. Okay, here I have some of my Colourpop palettes. This is the Darth Vader palette. I have Play It Jewel, one of their big mega palettes. I have this quad, what is this one called? Wait and See. I really liked this one. We have this, wasn't a huge fan of this one, but I may end up giving that one away. We'll see. We'll see. I have the All Amethyst palette. This launched earlier this year, and it came to Ulta right away, which I really, really like when Colourpop does that. This is a pretty, very cool toned purple story. We've got the C3PO palette. Love this one as well. Love their Star Wars line, but this one is the winner in my opinion. This Star Wars palette, so good. Such a beautiful color story. Hocus Pocus 2. I love Colourpop and Hocus Pocus. I think they make some really fun stuff for Hocus Pocus. And then the Bon Voyage palette, BT21 Colourpop palette. This one, it was just a little too light to mid-tone for me. I would have loved to see a couple of deeper shades, but overall it was fun. Okay, here I have a few of the collab palettes that have come out this year. Glamlight Michaela, of course. Such a beautiful blue, purple, green color story. Love this one. I've got a few from Ofra. This is the Allie Dawson palette. Listen, I'm showing you a bunch of creator collabs right now, and I just have to say, I just love seeing creators collab with their favorite brands. This one is the Hot Mess. Nope, it's not. This one is the Leora palette. I'm sorry. Totally said that was the wrong one. I thought I knew what I was doing over here, but really, really pretty. And now this one, Hot Mess Mama. This is Rhonda's palette. Absolutely love her, and she created a palette that is so her. Beautiful highlight blushes and shadows. This is the Emily Violet Marie and Cleona Dragon Fruit palette. I think this palette is amazing. Definitely one of the most fun collaborations to happen this year. They did such a great job. I love everything about it. M. Jones and Bella Beauty Bar collabed for the Celestial Garden palette. This palette I enjoyed so much. First of all, I love the M. Jones Instagram account. So incredibly talented. And this one, first of all, I love the packaging. I keep saying first of all. Can you tell there are a lot of things I like about this? But it has water activated liners, which really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. the Michaela, the smaller palette. I really love that they did this tin pan palette. I think the quality in this palette is over the moon beautiful. Bella Beauty Bar and Lexi LA Makeup on their CEO of the Rainbow palette. I actually reviewed this palette fairly recently and really enjoy it. Who would guess? What is this palette looking so loved and used? Oh my gosh, I got a comment from somebody the other day saying that I should stop talking about this palette. And the answer is never, ever, ever, ever. I'm going to be like 90 years old, out in the woods somewhere, wearing my multi-chromes from my palette. Adept Cosmetics made my dreams come true, and so did y'all. Every time you like a video, watch a video, you're helping my dreams come true, and I got to create this palette with Adept, and I will forever be grateful and excited about that. So, you know, in another 50 years, you see me rocking a multi-chrome, it's gonna be this palette. I love this too. Okay, we know I love when my friends get to make magic with brands, and this is the Hella palette with Angelica Nyqvist and Odin's Eye. I love it. I love it. Definitely, listen, you heard it here, folks. The best 2 palettes of 2022. Okay, Hollow Bean, Batty Bean, and Shroud. Batty Bean is so talented. I would love to meet her in person one day. She seems so kind and so nice, and I was so happy to see her get a round 2 with Shroud because I know she really loves the brand, and she did a beautiful, beautiful palette. Gourmand Girls, listen, I liked them before. I really did. I liked Gourmand Girls, but then they and Doodles by the Bunny made this Spooked palette, and I'm like, love, 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 love. The formulas in this palette are beautiful. The color story is beautiful. Everything about this palette is beautiful, and I'm like, oh, okay. Gourmand Girls just took it to the next level. I mean, the level they were at was a good level, you know, but they took it to the next level, and this is so beautiful. A few more collab palettes actually to talk about. Let's talk about Teresa is Lethal. So I showed you her first collab earlier. I believe we've already gone over that one, but this is their second collab, and I love the theming. This color story, I have to say, I like even more. I think it's just so fun. I have the Ascendant palette, which was Electrum and Witchery. I'm sorry if I'm not saying that correctly, but I've really enjoyed the products that I've tried from Electrum. I have the Sigma and Diana Saldana palette. Really pretty, very Sigma, very Diana, really, really, really pretty palette. Really enjoy the formulas, everything about that. If you're looking for a neutral palette with a couple of pops, look at this beauty right here. And then I had to buy the Sydney Grace Fancy Face Tropic Color palette. Tina did such a good job. First of all, look at what, here we go. What? Here we go. That's cool. I love that. The palm trees, everything. This is inspired by the Fancy Faces home country of Jamaica. I loved listening to her video, and I see the inspiration so much here. I think she did a really, really good job collabing with Sydney Grace on this one. All right, let's talk about some Milk Cosmetics. You can tell I really like this brand. We did talk about a few other palettes earlier, but here is my original Gemini, and then here is the newly repackaged one. So Gemini, love her, love her. So happy to have the new updated packaging. I mean, I love enough that I bought the new one because I had to. Mary Jane, I love this. This got mixed reviews, but this is one of my favorite cool toned palettes of all time. I have the Amore Mariposa. Sorry, I had to think for a second. This was holiday palette last year. I really liked that Melt did round pans. I like that they did this big palette. That was fun and different for them. I have, well, we did Morte earlier, didn't we? And now I have Vita here, this really colorful one. We have Smoke Sessions. This is actually my second one. I did have a first one. A bunch of the shades kind of broke. So I have this second one, beautiful green palette. I have the Blueprint palette. Whoops. Beautiful, beautiful. I love Melt. And then the Brunette palette. If you just want a neutral brown melt palette, this one's really, really pretty. And then this one I actually just recently bought when they were having a sale because I did not have 420 and I wanted it. So I'm excited to use this. The colors are absolutely beautiful in here. Okay, I've got a bunch of other random palettes, but here are a lot of my Beauty Bay palettes. So this is Wilderness with this really pretty color story. Let me move these a little bit so the camera can see better. We have Age of Opulence. This is really beautiful. The New Romantic palette, which is pinks and neutrals. This one actually is one of my favorites that Beauty Bay has ever done. This is the Book of Magic. I want to say this is one of my first times trying Beauty Bay, and it just made me fall in love with the brand big time. A couple of Jolie Beauty palettes that I love. This is the Vampirism palette. Whoops. Well, let me see. Is it gonna let me open? I'm sorry. This angle, I'm trying to show y'all and open things, but love, love, love this. The quality is amazing. We have the Sorceress. This is probably my personal favorite Jolie Beauty palette. I just love the grays, the purples, and the greens. And here are a bunch more palettes. Tiny Marvels, done in collaboration with Mel Thompson. Mel really made magic with this palette. Her and Sydney Grace did such a beautiful job on this one. We have the Surge palette from Blend Bunny. This was my first time ever purchasing from the brand, and I really, really love the matte formula in this palette especially. I have Carnival 3. We're going to see a bunch of rainbow palettes with these Carnival palettes, but I love the bright, bright colors here. Then we have the Antidote, which was supposed to be the antidote for the color lover. And I really liked that concept. I really like the color story. Quality is so good. The XL Carnival Pro palette. Beautiful, beautiful rainbow colors here. If you're ever thinking about a Carnival palette, the quality in all of them are amazing. It's just what is your personal preference? And actually, I'm looking for my original Carnival. I'll have to find where I put it. But here we have the Jade palette from Beauty Bay. This is a really great quality palette. This is actually highlighters. I should have put this with my highlighters, but you can see it here. I need to move this. I need to move this so it can be with my face palettes. I have a Beauty Bay Bright Matte palette. This is nice, but I do like the other Beauty Bay palettes more, and then just the Brights. Okay, here's my original Carnival. I was like, where is it? This is the first Bperfect Carnival palette that started my love with the brand. So beautiful. I have, let's see what these are. Oh, my Tati Beauty palette. I love this. I absolutely love this. I really wish Tati Beauty could have made a comeback because this palette is special and I have traveled with this multiple times. The NYX Ultimate Utopia palette. This is a great palette from NYX. If you're looking for a drugstore palette, this is this is such a good palette. Really, really love this one. Glamlight Ice Cream Dream. This is one of my favorite pastel palettes. Amazing quality. And then the original Michaela palette. Love this one so much too. Okay, we have a lot of palettes here and I enjoy them all. Can you tell eyeshadow is my favorite in makeup? We have Kathleen Light's So Jaded palette. This is my favorite mega palette Colourpop has ever done. The Carly Babble Deluxe Edition. We talked about her first collab earlier and then they came out with this one. I enjoy this one too. The Naughty palette from BH. One of the best palettes they've ever done. I'm telling you, if you have this palette, pull it out for this Christmas season. I think you'll Really enjoy getting some use out of that one because the quality's amazing. Blueberry Muffin, one of the palettes that started my love with BH. We have Lost in Los Angeles. This is a really great drugstore price pastel palette. Really beautiful, good quality. Avocado Toast, I love. I see this palette get compared to a lot of other palettes, but I kind of feel like this stands alone. This is another one that I don't really compare to a lot of other palettes. I have my Mimosa palette, beautiful fun color story. Let's see, Rebel Rouge Labs, Howlin' For You. This is my favorite palette from the brand. It does have a pressed glitter, but I actually really liked the pressed glitter in that one. We have the Witching Hour palette from Hocus Pocus. I like this one, but if I'm ranking the 3 Hocus Pocus Colourpop palettes, this one is in 3rd place, and this one would be in 2nd place. I really love the grungy tones of this one. I really like that palette. Let's see, I've got the Sigma Ritzy eyeshadow palette. I really like this. This is more cool tones. I have a Pat McGrath quad right here. I think this one is, what do you called? Voyeuristic Vixen, and then 2 of my Colourpop Star Wars palette, the Mandalorian and the Child palette. We've got It's Freaking Bats. This is the first collab palette that Batty Bean did with Shroud. A beautiful color story, of course. We've got Passion in Paris from BH, one of their best palettes in my opinion. It's My Pleasure from Colourpop. I liked this palette too. I really like the different finishes in here. This is a really great Colourpop palette in my opinion, and this too is one of their best palettes. The Lush Life, I wish this was in their permanent line. I don't know if this one is available anymore. We have the Tinkerbell palette. Again, I think this is really good quality Colourpop shadows. At Forest Sight, the Raw Beauty Christie collab. I really like this palette, specifically for the matte shades. The Nightmare Before Christmas, I loved this. I think this was such a fun color story and such a fun take on a Christmas palette. And then Sonic Bloom. A lot of y'all, just like me, just really loved this color story. I think it's just, I really enjoy this color story. I think Colourpop did really good with this one. Okay, another random assortment of palettes. I have my Glaminatrix Glamorous palette. I'm really enjoying this one. My Beauty Bay Dark Fantasy. All of these that I have right here in front of me are palettes that have launched this year. I have my Pat McGrath Holiday palette from this year right here. We have the Halloween palettes, some of them from Unearthly. This is the 1964 palette. Oh, I love these. Like, this launch from Unearthly, they really outdid themselves in my opinion. I have the So Strange palette, which is so beautiful. Okay, here we have the Daily Grind, one of Unearthly's newer palettes. We have the Druid palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. This was the first palette from the brand, and they really did a good job with this one too. Nice, dark, grungy color story. We have Don't Be Jelly from Unearthly. I bought this one as well. I think it's so pretty. We have the Berries palette from Beauty Bay. These monochromatic palettes from Beauty Bay are just really good. The Midnight palette and another Unearthly. This is the Sleepover palette. I just think this artwork is so cute. I love the pillow fight kind of theme. Beautiful color story inside. And then what do I have here? This is another Pat McGrath palette. This one launched this year. I think this one is like Moonlight Seduction. We have the new ABH, was this Rose Metals? This is the format that they're doing this year, and I have to say I really like it. I found the formulas to be really good. Angles of Illumination from Bella Beauty Bar. Really pretty, all kind of duochrome style palette. This is the Martine Cosmetics palette, Martine's Diner. I really enjoy this one as well. Really nice color story. I like their brand a lot. Natasha Denona Retro Glam. Beautiful, kind of icy winter color story. All I Ever Wanted Volume 2. Sorry, I was like, wait a minute, what is this? And then we have all these shimmer, sparkly, shifty shades in here. And Garden of Juvia's. This is such a great pigmented pastel palette. Really, really, really have enjoyed this one. Okay, here we have some more of my Unearthly palettes. Some of them do say Alien because Unearthly did rebrand. So this is the In the Dark palette. I have the Witching Hour palette. Beautiful. I also ranked my Unearthly palettes this year, so definitely check that out if you're curious. This is the Lure palette, a personal favorite from the brand. Hauntingly Glamorous, another favorite. These mattes that Sydney Nicole did are so incredibly beautiful. She really did a great job. We have the Capricorn palette, another matte palette. All I Ever Wanted Volume 1. I just showed you Volume 2 a few minutes ago, I think. Or earlier in this video, or it's coming. I don't know. Beautiful, shifty, shimmery palette. Not Normal. I love this cover design. I wish I were one of these girls. I think they look so cool. Beautiful color story inside. And then this is the Strawberry Milkshake palette, another favorite for me. I think this color story is so fun and unique, and I really, really enjoy having this. Next up, let's talk Odin's Eye, the Alva 2 eyeshadow palette. So beautiful. I'm pretty sure this was my second purchase from the brand. I have the Freya palette right here. I think this one and this next one are discontinued. This is the Solmon palette. And then we have the Norns. This was a favorite for a long time, but then this year they came out with some palettes and really outdid themselves. This, I want to say, was my first Odin's Eye purchase. And I really like this palette, but their formula has just gotten better and better and better over the years. So I love seeing brands like improve on already good products, you know. But these are their mini palettes. Let me see. Let me scooch these out of the way just a little bit. I have Erd. This is my personal favorite of the mini palettes. I just love this color story and formula. I have Verdandi right here. I have, let's see, this is the Alva 2 Mini Sky, I think this one is. The Mini Forest Alva 2. The Scood palette. Forgive me if I am mispronouncing these names, but super beautiful sparkly palette. And then this is the Mini Ocean Alva palette. Really, really pretty. These palettes right here, I think, are where we can really start seeing Odin's Eye and their newer formula. So the Giant Wolves, a classic, a beautiful, beautiful palette. The Hummingbird, oh sorry, this was with Annette's Makeup Corner. This palette is from Tina, the Fancy Face, the Hummingbird palette. Beautiful, beautiful, colorful palette. And then Judy did the Red Dragon palette. Gorgeous, like absolutely gorgeous shades in here. We have the Saga of Freya collection. So we have the double-sided palette, which I really, really enjoy this. Like, these palettes, I think, are definitely underrated palettes. They deserve way more hype. This is the Chapter 2 Cat with the Golden Carriage palette. I think this is a fun color story. I love the teals and the oranges. And then we have Tears of Freya. This one is really pretty, and it's like a fun twist on neutrals, right? We have some neutral shades, but then like the pinky lavender, these two shades, like they really just make it like something extra. Okay, another mix of palettes. Let's see what we've got. We have the Lunar Beauty Nude Prism palette. This is a beautiful neutral palette. I also have this Glamlight Barbie's Dream Summer palette. This was an unexpected favorite for me. I mean, I knew I wanted it, but the color story was surprisingly super duper versatile, and I've really been enjoying it. Okay, Glamlite Frosted Flakes. Love the theming, love the palette. I have Unearthly Cosmetics Leather and Lace, a perfect palette for neutral lovers and color lovers. Really, really love that palette. Natasha Denona Pastel. I'm one of the people that love this palette. The quality in here is so good if you're looking for pastels. The Ethereality palette from Jolie Beauty. This is another one I just really enjoy. I think Jolie Beauty makes some really, really great quality products. And then the Unearthly Vitality palette. This is really unexpected for the brand. I love that they did bright, colorful, fun shades with this one. After that, I've got Glamlite Scooby-Doo. This one is so, so fun. Then we have Natasha Denona My Dream palette. Another favorite. I just really like this color story. We have Sigma Alice in Wonderland. This one may replace, my favorite Sigma Cinderella. This may be my new favorite Sigma palette. And then we have Dead of Night from Unearthly. Yeah, this color story, it speaks for itself. I love it. More Natasha Denona Trio Chrome palette. This is one of her best palettes ever. I love this. Grungy pastels with multi-chromes. The Circo Loco palette. I'm so happy. I see a lot of times people say like, oh, Natasha does the same color stories. And I'm like, have you seen her colorful palettes? They're so fun and different, and I love that. I also love this face and eye palette she did. This one really, really beautiful. Love all the products in here. I have the Bronze palette. Again, one of my favorite neutral palettes, warm bronze tones. The Retro palette. Super duper beautiful. Very retro vibes to me. Of course, I have her mini palettes. I think this is the Leela. I think this is the Mini Love. Mini, what do you call it? Mini Biba. Did I say Biba or Lila something? The Xenon palette. I love all of these. I think the 5 pans from Natasha are a really good way to sample her formula if you don't want to buy her larger palettes. This Metropolis still remains my favorite Natasha palette of all time. I think it is amazing. I love the color story so, so much. We've got the Glam palette, so many people's fave with the cool tones. The Love palette. This was a personal favorite of mine for a long time, and I still really enjoy it. I actually took this, my husband and I went and stayed in Havana. The last time we went, I took this palette and just really got a lot of use out of it. Enjoyed it a lot. And then we have the Zendo palette. I feel like a lot of people had mixed feelings on this one. I was personally on the side that loved this palette though. I think it's so pretty. Okay, a lot more palettes that launched this year. Some of my favorites. The Minka palette from Adept, sparkly, amazing perfection. We have Blend Bunny All Done Up. Love this neutral palette. Scooby-Doo and Glamlite. Another beautiful, beautiful palette. Nearly Natural from Glaminatrix. This is one of my favorite neutral palettes as well. I love the love the tones in here. We have the Weirdos from Unearthly. This color story is perfection. I love the multi-chromes in here as well. And we have the Christmas Eve palette. I was like, is this the Christmas one? No, it's the Christmas Eve from Odin's Eye. Let me move these. And you have this beautiful, cool toned color story in here. A personal fave. Warms My Blood from Unearthly. One of my favorites of the year, 100%. Loving, loving, loving this color story. I also have House of Elle from Adept. This was another great one. Really unexpected for Adept to do 9 pans, but I love. I've got the Serenity palette from Cosmic Brushes. So beautiful. Really, really, really came through and surprised me this year. I have Strange and Unusual from Bella Beauty Bar. And then the Merry Christmas palette from Odin's Eye. Another Christmas themed winner of a palette. Okay, let's look through some of my Adept palettes. Here we have the old version of Ninhydrin. I need to grab the new version to show y'all. I think I left it over there. We'll get to it. This is Kodan. Personally love, love, love this kind of wacky color story. I don't know, it speaks to me. I've got the original Plain Jane right here, and then the updated Plain Jane right here, Plain Jane Remastered. Absolutely love both of those, and I have the two Amunet versions. So this, the original one that I bought, the dark version, and then the newer one, I have the light version. Love both of these, of course. Y'all know how much I love Adept. Okay, another big pile of palettes. I have my NARS Stargaze palette. This one, so hard to open. Worst thing about this palette, in my opinion, but overall, the shades inside are gorgeous. I have the Hypernova palette from Sugar Drizzle. I have the Melt Gemini 2 palette. Pretty. So many pretty palettes. The new Mod palette from Sigma, a new favorite for me. I have the Beauty by Earthy palette. I think out of these 16 pan monochromatic palettes, this one may be my favorite. And then I've got Ace Beauté Palette Opoly palette. That is a mouthful, but we have this really nice color story, and I really love the formula that Ace Beauté did in this palette. We have Nouveau from ABH, another beautiful color story. And this from Odin's Eye, so good this year. This is such a great palette. This is the Solmon 2 palette, really truly beautiful. Okay, the Bard from Fantasy Cosmetica. There we go. Beautiful. This is their best palette yet, in my opinion. Sugar Drizzle, man, I love frogs. I love, and I really, really like this palette too. Very special, shifty shades. I have the Primal palette from Blend Bunny. Beautiful, deep, dark rainbow palette. The Sea Witch from Electrum, another beautiful indie palette. I have the mattes from Sugar Drizzle. Now this is purple, 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 but I enjoy it. I like it. I really like this matte formula. The Disney Fantasia One Size Beauty palette. One Size did a great job with this Disney collab. I really like the face products and the eye products in here. And then we have the Dollhouse from Blend Bunny, kind of their twist on colorful neutrals. Okay, we've got some more palettes. Sugar Drizzle, the Sugar Dreams. This was kind of their multi-chrome, duochrome pastel palette. I have this, the Bee palette. Really, 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 really pretty. I like this color story a lot. I've got Lethal Cosmetics. I think this was Player One or One Up palette. This was a really fun color story. Artitude Cosmetics sent me their Phoenix palette. Really pretty. And then I bought the Clarity Cosmetics Apocalypse palette. Multi-chromes and mattes in here. More. This is the Urban Decay She-Hulk palette. This was kind of a letdown in my opinion. Not bad, but not in love with it. Dose of Colors Truffle palette. Really pretty, very light, neutrally mauve toned palette. The NYX Netflix Fate Winx Saga palette. Really fun with some blushes in there. The Jaclyn Cosmetics Strawberry Feels palette. I have Makeup Revolution Beetlejuice. I liked this one. I thought it was fun. We have the Dear Mom palette from Jaclyn Cosmetics. The Radioactive palette from Gourmand Girls. My hands are getting tired, y'all. So all shimmery, shifty, pretty shades. And then the Cyberpunk palette from Game Beauty. Again, bright, colorful, fun. Okay, I did not like this Game of Thrones palette from Makeup Revolution, but it's here. The Wild Greens from Urban Decay. Not very wild, but very pretty. This is the Makeup by Alina and Bperfect Rain palette. A few too many pressed glitters for me, but I do think collaborations should be true to the creator. And for that reason, I'm really glad that they stayed true and put some glitters in there. But this is the Meet Me at Midnight Lois Cosmetics palette. Right here, we've got several palettes from J-Cat, right? Is this J-Cat? Yes. So the Jungle Roar palette, we have Storm Simulation, and finally, Traffic Night Bouquet right here. And then I have Elf Cookies and Dreams. Okay, here's my new Ninhydrin. I was like, I think I'll put it with my sparkly palettes. So we have the new Ninhydrin here. I have some singles from Electrum and Divina in here, both really, really beautiful. And then I have some singles that I bought from Terra Moons, which I've really enjoyed playing with. Here are a few of my Lunar Beauty eyeshadow palettes. Life's a Drag Facelift. Whoops. Beautiful. I have Eternal Eclipse, one of my favorites from the brand. One of the best neutral palettes too. If you're looking for some pretty cool tones, neutrals that aren't boring, check out Eternal Eclipse. Strawberry Dream, not for the faint of heart, but amazing quality and formula. This shade right here, yeah, Blue Moon, forget about it. It's so pretty, it hurts. Greek Goddess. I wish they still made this, but they make some really, really good other neutral palettes. This one, just the theming, a personal favorite. And then, of course, I have a Moonspell, the original. One of my favorite palettes of all time. Beautiful formula, beautiful theming, so fun. And then we have Moonspell Volume 2. I thought this one was really good too. I really hope next year we get a Volume 3, maybe blues and greens. But this one is beautiful. You know, Lunar Beauty is definitely a favorite brand for me. More palettes. MAC Black Panther. Whoops. There goes my thing with the names. I really wish the names were printed, but it's fine. Huda Beauty Empowered. Not my favorite. A lot of people's favorite, though. I have the Sorcerer palette from Fantasy Cosmetica. MAC Stranger Things palette. Whoops. Beautiful, beautiful. Where's the other one? Somewhere. I have the Hawkins one. Melt Cosmetics Water. The Melt Cosmetics Fire. I was so surprised this was the Melt Holiday Collection. I really thought we would get something more. But this is the Earth palette and the Air palette here. And then I've also got Unearthly Cosmetics The Bunnies palette. Such fun artwork. Okay, lots more palettes. Unearthly Creepy Crawly. The Chilling Quad. I really like these quads from Unearthly, and the Thirst Quad. I've also got, let's see, my Kaleidos quads right here. Where is my Kaleidos? Where is my Kaleidos Escape Pod? I need to look. Where is that? Okay, I've got this one from their Night of Creation collection, this one as well. Then we have these two beautiful quads, both very cool toned. My Pat McGrath little 6-pan that she launched this year, I thought this was pretty fun. We have Up to Snow Good and Not Snow Nice from NYX. Both of these were really, really fun. I have the Egypt quad from BH, Miami. These were not my favorite. Iceland was Shattered, Malibu, Mediocre, Mykonos. I mean, these weren't terrible, but they weren't, you know, they weren't what I was hoping they would be. We have Meant to Be from Sugar Drizzle, and then the Natasha Denona Mini Bronze. All right, New Mood from Beauty Bay. Let me flip it around. All right, so we have this nice, fun color story. We've got, let me move these. We've got the Ethereal palette from Profusion. Nice kind of spring-esque colors. Tarte Maneater, a really great mainstream palette. If you want to walk into Ulta, Sephora, you want to get a high-end palette, I like this one. I thought they did a really, really good job with that one. And then we have here Genuine Gems from Simply Posh. This was a new to me indie brand this year. I've had a lot of fun discovering their brand. This is the Martine Cosmetics. I think this was like what, the Triple X palette, kind of like sci-fi themed. The Lunar Beauty 12 Days of Lunar. This was such a fun concept. I hope Lunar Beauty continues to do fun stuff like this. The Zombified palette from Jolie Beauty. They're all kind of neon palette. I have the Coraline Makeup Revolution palette. What's Up Beauty. This was their new palette this year, and I thought this was a lot of fun. I'm excited for what they are going to do in 2023. And here, I was looking for my Stranger Things palette. See, I really need to organize now. But this is the Hawkins MAC palette, and then another Simply Posh with their Fairy Tale Fairies palette. All right, more palettes. Pat McGrath. She launched these two new 5-pan palettes, and I really like this format from her. We have Trick or Treat from Sugar Drizzle, the Natasha Denona Mini Crush palette, the Pat McGrath Bridgerton collab palettes. Really enjoyed these. I mean, I'm a fan of the show as well, but I thought the formulas in here were nice and fun. I just wish they weren't so similar to one another, you know, having all those pinky tones. But I did have fun with these. And then I have my Urban Decay Naked Mini palette. It's a nice neutral palette. Nothing wrong with it. Okay, there she is. I knew I had the Escape Pod. I just had to find. Love this one from Kaleidos. But I think that is all my palettes. If I forgot anything, I'm so sorry, but thank you so much for watching. Please do subscribe before you leave if you don't want to miss out on any of my other content. This was a lot. I really hope y'all enjoyed it. I hope you're having a great day, and I will see you soon. Bye.